marks noontime throughout the year. And this is Arthur R.C. Christian, which is, of course, a fake name, a pseudonym, sponsors a small group of Americans who seek the age of reason. It says there's a time capsule placed 6 feet below this spot, and it doesn't have a date on which it's supposed to be opened. The Georgia Guidestones was erected on March 22nd, 1980. Let these be guidestones to an age of reason.
Also new tonight, we have our first look at the explosion at the Georgia Guidestones. The GBI just releasing this video hours ago, and you can see there is a bright flash, and then part of the structure explodes. The Guidestones are in Elbert County and were built back in 1979, but no one knows who put them up. This next video shows what the GBI has identified now as a car leaving the area shortly after that explosion. And while it reportedly shook some nearby homes, we're told there were no injuries. The structure has been demolished.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild. I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the red. Number 322. First of all, he's not the nominee, and look, I look forward. Are you prepared to lose? No, I'm not going to lose.
Imagine a world where you can reverse the effects of age, stress, and sun. From the leading name in biotechnology comes Regenerate, another breakthrough from the Umbrella Corporation. Regenerate's revolutionary T-cell formula actually brings dead cells back to life. Now, your youthful beauty can last forever. Always consult your doctor before starting treatment. Some side effects may occur.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret. Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code? I wish there were something secret I could... Could manifest. 322, a secret number? There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction that he's taking the country. We can do a better job, and I intend to do it. And we'll be watching. Be safe on the campaign trail. John Kerry, thanks for joining us.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
Please join me in welcoming to the podium.
Oh.
Israel is a country that has no place on our land. We must remove that country because it constitutes a security, military, and political catastrophe to the Arab and Islamic nation and must be finished. We are not ashamed to say this with full force. We must teach Israel a lesson, and we will do this again and again. The Alaska flood is just the first time, and there will be a second, a third, a fourth, because we have the determination, the resolve, and the capabilities to fight. The occupation must come to an end.
Occupation where? In the Gaza Strip?
No, I am talking about all the Palestinian lands.
Does that mean the annihilation of Israel?
Yes, of course. The existence of Israel is what causes all that pain, blood, and tears. It is Israel, not us. We are the victims of the occupation, period. Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do. On October 7th, October 10th, October 1 million. Everything we do is justified.
Well, during those 20 years, while we were mastering the art of hunting terrorism, hunting terrorists in mountains in Pakistan and Afghanistan, what were our global power competitors doing? Was Russia engaged in the global war on terror? Was China involved in the global war on terror? So all the hundreds of billions of dollars that we spent in that war, we spent in a war that was a giant distraction for us that gave our closest near-peer competitors 20 years to invest their money and grow to become a larger threat than we were even aware they were becoming. right? And then China, all of a sudden, China has multiple aircraft carriers, and they're launching aircraft from aircraft carriers, and they can project power into the South Asian seas. That's insane, right? All of a sudden, like the Russian Federation is in close relationships with the Chinese and the Syrians and the North Koreans and the Iranians. How do we just wake up to this?
And as concerns grow over the conflict consuming the entire region, Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah speaking publicly for the first time since the war began. The leader of the powerful Lebanese militia said all options were, quote, on the table, but stopped short of calling to expand the war to a second front.
And as we repeatedly warn, these images are very hard to watch.
We are going full steam ahead, declared Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he means it. A strike after Israeli strike punishes the people of Gaza.
With the Israeli military surrounding Gaza City, the face-to-face combat with Hamas militants, and the airstrike near one of the largest hospitals in Gaza. Israel tonight says they were targeting Hamas, that Hamas was using an ambulance to carry weapons and fighters. Several civilians were killed. Tonight, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Israel, saying Israel has the right to defend itself, but pushing for humanitarian pauses to get aid into Gaza and to help to get the hostages out. Prime Minister Netanyahu, at least publicly, did not appear interested in any pause.
I spoke to a young woman who got a master's degree from Stanford. She's very upset with Stanford not coming out to completely condemn what Hamas did to the Israelis. Here she is Wednesday on this program. Listen to this.
Very best friend at one point told me that she really hoped to become a suicide bomber. This is how terrorists are being made. They're not being made in some dungeon in Afghanistan. And when we see these kind of calls on campus for intifada, smash the Jew, these are calls for violence. And some people on campus came from a reality maybe similar to mine, where you are brainwashed from a very young age to hate Jews.
And that is such an important point, Ayan, because, you know, her best friend, one of her best friends, wants to be a suicide bomber. Because when you grow up in certain parts of this world, you are raised to want to kill Jewish people.
Absolutely. When I joined the Muslim Brotherhood as a teenager, we were taught that the biggest enemy to Islam, they are the Jews. It's the state of Israel. We believed in it. We prayed for it. And Sophia, the student whom you just showed, she really has a point in saying people are not being radicalized in dungeons in Afghanistan. They're being radicalized in our ivory towers. Right. And some of them are radicalized and some of them are fooled because this woke revolution that's underway in universities in America has given Hamas and the allies, Islamist allies of Hamas, an opening to radicalize, to fool, and to dissemble, and to lie, and to put their cause forward. And their cause is to eradicate, to obliterate the state of Israel, and to kill Jews. Let's just state it as plainly as possible. That is what they want.
You say, ultimately, Russia needs China. So that's what links them.
Yeah, I think the Russia's war in Ukraine, their failed war, where they spilled so much blood and treasure, has really been a force multiplier for bringing them closer to China, because they're dependent upon China to export their oil, and to Iran because they're dependent upon Iran for drones. And let's add North Korea, as Brian mentioned, to the axis of evil, because Russia needs their artillery. So we're seeing Russia in a very subservient position, a weakened position. Vladimir Putin is weaker now than he's ever been, and his regime security more perilous than it's ever been, and that's why he has to rely on that, the rest of the members of that axis of evil.
Let me ask you one more thing before I let you go. When you say 30 days, these 30 days are pivotal for the future of Israel. Why do you say 30 days, and what do you mean?
I mean, I just, this is going in real time, right? Every hour there's something going on. You obviously need to get the hostages out. Time is of the essence. The Israelis are moving aggressively into Gaza. Time is of the essence. The suffering, the humanitarian suffering by the Palestinians in southern Gaza also needs to be resolved. We need to get resources to them. They don't deserve to be suffering like this. They don't deserve to be killed. And consequently, that's what we need to focus on. So there's a limited amount of time it's got to be focused on, and this is going to be an exceptionally important 30 days.
Peru.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast. Rise up, rise up, rise up. He was able to make war with him.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Midnight Ride. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you into the Puritan Barn, into the Now You See TV studios for the Midnight Ride with myself and John Pounders. Tonight, the living dead of Peru. We're going to be connecting something ancient with something that's happening right now. We're going to be looking at the ancient history of this good old flat earth, how it ties in spiritually with what's manifesting right now. We're going to tie it all in with the Word of God and put it out there to where it's meaningful to us right now. And the best thing about it, you don't have to wait very long because we are now
live. What's up, guys? I'm actually really excited to do this show. This has been something that I've been following for, ever since it happened. This is crazy stuff. So I'm excited about it. I'm glad to be here with David. We've been doing this shows together, David, since 2016. So we're looking at 7 years of doing these shows. I look back on the timeline, and it amazes me that 7 years have gone by that we've been doing and covering topics like this, and it just seems like we never run out of things to talk about because things just keep ramping up and going crazy.
Yeah, and there's things like this that just explode into what's going on right now. We've been saying that things like this are going to happen, and we're going to be looking at some things tonight that are happening right now that, sometimes you just hate being right. But, this is happening right now, and we need to understand the significance of it and be aware of what's going on.
Something else that's happening right now that I need to make you guys aware of, just so none of you guys get scammed or anything. In the YouTube comments, the Rumble comments, and sometimes just in the emails, there's been somebody impersonating Now You See TV. I can't remember the name of the email. I can actually look it up, but it's Now You See TV something. Let me look it up for you guys because I think you guys need to be aware of it. But the email is nowyoutctvofficials@gmail.com. First off, I'll never email you guys asking you for anything on a YouTube comment or anything along those lines. If you want to email me, go to our website. Just link in the description. You'll find my email there. Don't believe any kind of email you get from anything random like that, okay? Make sure you go to the website and email me directly. There's always people trying to do that. Me and David constantly have people trying to ruin what we're doing here. And, thankfully, thanks to the Most High God who has had our back through this time, it hasn't happened. But I have no idea what they want. But don't fall for it. Okay, let's put it that way. And with that being said, we're going to look at a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back with tonight's podcast.
And I might say also that any of you that have emailed this, let us know what's going on with that. We're going to find out.
Thank you guys so much. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsors. Thank you. Many mainstream companies put dangerous chemicals in their products that contribute to disease and disability. This is why it's so important that we take care in the products that we consume.
The skin
아니,
is the
어디
largest
가나 그렇게.
organ in your body, and it is the covering to your temple. Our sponsor tonight is Sugar and Spice Soap Company. They create all natural and biblically clean soaps and beauty products. They even have a soap for Midnight Ride listeners. Use coupon code NYSTV to receive 10% off all your purchases. Link in the description. If this is true, then our country is in a lot of trouble.
We would have these trips, these special trips. But he said my daddy takes the bodies to the grocery store and he grinds them up and puts it in the hamburger. And nobody ever knows it.
How can kids 6, 8, 10 years old be describing rituals that come from a book like the Book of the Dead?
쟤네가 말하는 대로 오늘 하면 정말 세상 처음으로 빨가벗고 액수를 해볼게.
It's hard to get your mind around people being capable of this kind of evil.
All right, guys, we're back. Thank you, guys. If you guys would like to check out any of our sponsors or our websites, I've got FOJCradio.com down there. I've got NYSTV.org down there, and all of the other sponsors that we have. If anything down there interests you, make sure you guys go check that out because, look, you know, we've had a strike here, we've had strikes there, and we've been shuffled around several times. So I don't know how many more channels we got to lose, but guess what? We're going to keep trying to push forth, and thankfully, God has allowed us to continue doing this. So make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys just go subscribe to other channels too. David has his channel, FOJC Radio. It is called Underground Church, FOJC Underground Church YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go subscribe to that. And we have several other channels as well that are listed on our YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check those out. With that being said, I don't have anything else to say. David, do you have anything you want to add before we get moving on this?
Well, I might make mention tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central, we'll have a live stream on our YouTube and our Rumble channel. Helps the Holiness, putting off the old man, putting on the new. And Tuesday night on our FOJC Radio Underground Church, we will be premiering a new regular broadcast on FOJC Radio, Drawing Living Waters with Adam Ybarra. Adam is the fellow that does these dynamite thumbnails. Some are just absolute classics that you see. He's just a wonderful brother. And it's going to be really, really different, unique broadcast, kind of like Sanctified Bob Ross. And it's going to work in some things for homeschoolers. Just not anything out there like it. So we're very thankful for that. And you can check that out. 6 p.m. Central on our Underground Church YouTube channel. So thank you very much for that.
All right, guys. So gather your coffee, gather your tinfoil hat, whatever else you have to make yourself feel secure, because we are getting ready to talk about a subject that sounds completely insane to those of you who have not been following what's going on right now. But in 2023, it actually seems pretty normal. So we're going to be talking about it tonight. David, I'm going to hand this over to you, and we're ready whenever you are.
All right, well, let's ride. Let's ride. And we're going to begin by looking at some of the Nazca lines, which are in Peru. And in 1968, I was a senior in high school when Chariot of the Gods came out by Eric von Daniken. And I read that book, and I would be converted to Christ within a couple of years. And that just opened up a new paradigm of wonderment of all of the mysteries that are here on this good old flat earth. And when, after my conversion, within about a couple of years later, I became fascinated with the Word of God, how that it contained the answers and the understandings for these things. And that has just been a compulsion with me to this very hour. And as we look at these ancient lines, and these are huge, and these are in Nazca, Peru, and we can see there a spider, and we can see a monkey, this bird, and there's a lot of these, and they're huge. And what's amazing about them They can only be seen from the air. If you were down on ground level, you'd never see this because you have to be from an aerial position to even see these things. And it's just absolutely amazing.
These things go for miles. I mean, they're massive structures, and some of the lines on them are so straight, it's amazing.
Yeah, and you know, our ancient aliens friends. Well, this just proves that ET was there, and ET did this. Well, no, what this proves that there was an ancient civilization that had a lot of technology and that was tapped into fallen angel knowledge that had a lot of capabilities that we don't like to admit that they have. But there's the understanding of what's going on here from scripture, and we see these animals, the monkey and the spider, and in the word of God we see an association of animals with idolatry in Ezekiel 8:10. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beast and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And animals were worshipped, the worship of the creature instead of the creator. Romans 1 and 23, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like the corruptible man, into birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. And these things became a talisman, and they became a magical sigil. These were put in places where the ley lines would be at the place where the magnetic energy of the earth would be at its highest point. And all of these concepts are in place here that they would be trying to use these sites as a place to draw occult power and to use them in magical rituals. And this is a book entitled Egyptian Magic by E. Wallace Budge. And he talks in here about, on page 363, about this concept of using amulets. And there would be amulets, sigils, talisman, and even these big earthworks that would be used to tap into these earth energies and to use them in magical workings. And Mr. Budge writes here on page 63, the amulet is typical of teeming life and of the resurrection. The frog-headed goddess Hek, the wife of Kenmu, was associated with the resurrection, and this amulet, when laid upon the body of the dead, was intended to transfer to it her power. And they would have these frog and animal amulets, as it says in the Word of God in Ezekiel 8, that they would put them upon the walls. And here in Nazca, we see this same structure that we see there. And there are some amazing things in this area. And in this area, there in the area beyond Nazca, and here we have Machu Picchu. And there's an amazing square mountain. There's a square mountain that is just absolutely crazy to look at. It's absolutely, obviously artificially made. And this is really the border of the Wild West here. And beyond this place, the Peruvian jungle becomes so dense that there are literally treasure hunters that go out into this place, and they will bring back, and we're going to show you some of the things that have been brought back from this area. And there's literally places here where archaeologists have not been, and we're looking here at just literally the Wild West of the jungles of Peru. Now, this is a book that I'll be referring to throughout the presentation this evening, Lost Fatigue and the Non-Human Remains of Nazca. And this is a book that was written that has the facts and the documentations about some of the things we're going to show you that have been found in this area. And some of them, they're called the mummies of Peru. And the city of Lost Fatigue, and people are now, the more that this is studied and investigated, it's believed that the city of Pati is the famous lost city of El Dorado, the famous lost city of the Incas. And this lost city of Petit was also known as the Tiger King or the Jaguar. And there's a huge connection in the ancient mystery religions that came down through Babylon of the importance of the big cat, the tiger, and the jaguar, and the leopard. This was symbolic of the ruling power of the people that came down right from Nimrod. And what we have here, we have in this area, it was well established in the antediluvian world, and after the dispersion at Babel, we saw a regathering into this area because there's some places that are called navels, at literally like the navel of the earth. Mount Hermon would be considered a navel. This is just one here at Machu Picchu in this area of Peru. This is one of the most toxic places spiritually on the earth. I would not know of any place that would be more toxic in that dark energy that is coming forth from here. So we have so many things here with this lost city of Petit, the lost city of El Dorado, and this association that the very name of Lost Petit, it means the jaguar. And we have here from the book Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop, and it shows here the picture of Nimrod. And it's interesting here that the oldest drawings of Nimrod portray him as a Negro, and he was the son of Cush the Egyptian. And I believe our best understanding is that Nimrod was a black man. Now, what we're told is that there were no black people in the Americas until they were brought over by the Spaniards as slaves. But what we see as we study the South American cultures is that the Olmecs definitely were a predominant of black people. And it's obvious when you study the Olmec heads, and the Olmecs also, the jaguar symbology. We're going to be showing you some pictures that are just amazing. We have the tradition of the werewolf. Well, among the Olmecs and among these other South American and Mesoamerican peoples, they had the tradition of the were-jaguar. And here we see Nimrod in the leopard-spotted garment. And this was the sign of him being the ruler. And also on the right, we have the Egyptian priest that has the leopard-spotted robe. And we have here the cat head there. And this big cat symbolism is huge as it came down. Nimrod was the mighty hunter. And there are even traditions where there was a half-breed that was a cross between a jaguar and a lion that Nimrod would use in hunting. He was the mighty hunter. And this symbology carried down among the ruling classes, these mystery religions, as they spread all over the earth. And we see this show up in a big, big way in these Mesoamerican cultures. And John, I remember you even brought this out in one of your presentations among the British royals.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the legend goes really, really far back, and I can explain it quickly if you'd like. But
yes, if you want.
So the legend has it this is from different people that are associated with different religions. This is pretty much the consensus of what they believe this is. And I'm not saying I believe this, but this is what they believe. They believe the skins that God sewed for Adam and Eve were passed down, given to Noah, all the way down through to Noah. And these skins represented the lineage of the main kings, the power behind the world. So Noah would have been of the main lineage of the human kings that were around pre-flood. And so he would have had these garments. And so then in the book of Jasher and a couple other books, it says that what happened was Noah had the garments and his son Ham stole the garments. A lot of people believe that ties in about uncovering his father's nakedness and all this. He stole the garments. The book of Jasher continues to say he took the garments and passed it on to his son. And then his son, Cush, passed it on to Nimrod. And it says Nimrod put the garment on and became a mighty man. And everything was subject to him after that at that point. So, And then continuing, like David said, it goes on through the royals that we have today. It's just a continual representation. You see in almost every royal family, you're going to see them wearing the big drab with the spots that are on that. Some of them look like leopard spots, some of them look like big black spots, but the symbology is exactly the same. And it's super, this is really cool. This guy on the left, to me, David, looks like a frog. And you were talking about the frogs. It's interesting, and it reminded me of Revelation, where it talks about the three spirits that look like frogs who go off to deceive the kings of the earth.
There's most definitely a repeated reptilian connection as we look at these entities, these drawings. Most definitely there is. Most definitely. Now, this is a picture, and this comes from the book, The Mystery of the Olmecs. And here we have an actual a drawing and a photo of an actual carving here of the were-jaguar. And we've had pictures on here. We've talked about the Apkallu, the birdmen that came out of Mesopotamia. We have the seven rishis in the Far Eastern tradition, the Apkallu in the Mediterranean. And we have here these were-jaguars who look very much like the Apkallu. And what we're not necessarily looking at somebody that's going to turn into a half human, half jaguar creature at the full moon, but we're looking at people that have been genetically altered. These are human animal chimeras that become really monstrous and bizarre entities. And many of these were very, very powerful early generation Nephilim that brought, according to all these traditions, that there were these supernatural creatures that came into their civilizations and imparted to them knowledge. And this were-jaguar tradition and the tradition of the jaguar and the big cat, this is one of the signatures of this mystery religion that came right down from Nimrod and was spread over the earth at the time of the dispersion of Babel. And I believe there was another when in the Bible we read at the time when Joshua came into the land of Canaan, it talks about Og being the last of the remnant of the Rephaim. And it's believed, and it's a solid conclusion that because we see him show up later in Gaza, but it's talking about the last of the remnant there on the east side of the Jordan. And when they saw the handwriting on the wall, if you will, of what was coming to them with the army of God, they just left. You know, many of them folded their tent and went home. And I think this is what it's speaking to. And I think at this time, we see many of them coming to the area in northeastern United States and also into South America. And in the way that the ocean streams carry, this is right into the area and well into Guatemala, and we have Peru that's on the Pacific side. But these are places where these ocean currents would take you right to. So there's a reason for that also. Now, here we have a drawing of the murder of the Mayan king. Boy, yeah, get me to pronounce it. Atahualpa. And we see, and he was murdered by Pizarro. And I'll just read a little bit. This is part of the myth of the Inca, a part of the myth of the Incarre. And I'm reading here from the Lost Petit book. And it says the Incarre, or Incara, myth is one of the most famous legends of the Inca. When the Spanish conquistadors executed the last ruler of the Inca people, Atahualpa, he vowed, according to the legend, that he would come back one day to avenge his death. According to the legend, the Spaniards buried his parts in several places around the kingdom. Now, what is that reminiscent of?
Osiris.
Absolutely, Osiris. You see, so we see here a repetition of, this is a retelling of the story of the mystery religions. We've got the leopard, we've got all kinds of things that are showing us that we're dealing here with the continuation of the Babylonian mysteries. Yeah. Okay. It says, according to the legend, the Spaniards buried his body parts in several places around the kingdom. His head is said to rest under the presidential palace in Lima, while his arms are said to be under the Huacapta Square of Tears in Cuzo, and his legs in Ayacucho. Buried under the earth, he will grow until the day that he will rise, take back his kingdom, and restore harmony in the relationship between the earth and her children. And this legend is out there, and this is widely believed by, to this day, by the people in this area, and they're looking for the return. And this is actually a demonic prophecy. Satan doesn't give up easy, and Satan was driven out of the land of Canaan, and the massive Inca civilization, it fell also. But these ancient spirits that built this civilization, they have vowed to return, and they are returning, and I'll say they are here. We're going to see every evidence that indeed these ancient spirits are back. They're wreaking havoc upon people in this area, and we're going to see some just absolutely amazing things that are going on in Peru right now.
And sorry, Dave.
No, go right ahead, please.
I was going to say, when I look at this picture, it's interesting to me. It's got the two feathers almost looking like one of the Roman figures there as well. And then on the left, this guy, and I don't know who did these artist portrayals. I just looked up some of the oldest ones I could find of it. The one on the left looks like the Indians, where all the elites built their house over that graveyard, Jekyll Island. It looks just like the Indian tribe that were almost 7-foot Indians that they found all buried over the top of this ancient Canaanite. Basically, it looked like a Canaanite altar that the elites built their house over. Well, this is where they would sacrifice people. But if you ask the caretakers, the caretakers said these race of Indians, which they called Indians, they called them Indians because they thought they were, I guess, from India, because they thought they were Aryan. But they were like almost 7 foot tall, the skeletons that they found. So it's interesting, man. Yeah. There's so many tales of this and that. It's really, they all blend in together. And I think you're right. I think it's just the same tale told again over time. But maybe since at one time the earth was actually kind of all together in one area, it would make sense that one ruler had domain over that. So when did the earth split? It was in the time of Peleg, is that right?
Days of Peleg.
In the days of Peleg. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Another part of the legend that the Spaniards recorded when they were there in 1572 about the treasure, the lost treasure of El Dorado or Petit. It says the treasure included a great sun disk made of gold and other gold objects, and 13 mummified Inca rulers who had before reigned.
이렇게 하면 본인이 직접 하려고
king executed by Pizarro. And there was another explorer down in this area that recorded that he found 13 statues of the 13 Inca rulers. So we see this number 13 recurring also, which of course in the dark world is the name of the number of the coven. And these things, these unmistakable occult signatures appear over and over and over again. Now, in 2017, there was quite a stir in the...
Some kind of audio on there, but let me turn the audio off. But I was trying to do a screenshot. It sounded like Daily Dose of Internet in the background there. Let me go back here.
Okay.
Here we go. Go ahead.
Well, what we're looking at here is a little fellow by the name of Albert. And Albert was found in 2017 in this area of Peru. And in the right there, you can see that Albert, he had 3 fingers, and they're not really fingers at all on both hands, that he had like 3 fingers. And sometimes these are called mummies, and they're not really mummies. And this creature was found down there, and nobody is saying that this isn't a body. This has been confirmed to be by multiple examinations. This is a body of something. It's not like this is some kind of plaster Paris fraud or something, but it is definitely a body. And of what? That is what we must think of. And the controversy was huge and it was intense. Down in Peru, and this hit in 2017. There's all kinds of stuff over the internet. And this one book that I'm reading from, the Lost Petit and the Non-Human Remains of Nazca by Thierry Jamin. He was a Frenchman that was right there in the middle of it, doing the investigation on this. And not only, and you know, this, I mean, and this looks like E.T., doesn't it? I mean, let's face it, E.T. phone home, there he is. And so, and you know, a lot of people think, well, we've seen this in Steven Spielberg. Well, we might say, well, how did Steven Spielberg know? You know, is what we might ask. But there's no controversy that this is not a body. And what it is a body of, we're going to be talking about. And something else very interesting about Albert. Albert is asexual. Albert did not have any genitalia. He was literally a little androgynous fellow. And this also harkens us back to what we've done in studies on Midnight Ride about the androgynous God and about all of the traditions in Gnosticism and the Kabbalah that the original gods were androgynous. So this is very fascinating.
Next week, David, believe it or not, the show that we're going to talk about has a lot to do with that because I've been investigating. You know, we're talking about the number. We did the Book of Enoch commentary, which in 3 new ones are actually dropping tomorrow on nystv.org. The Book of Enoch commentary, but we talked about how many angels all fell onto the earth. If what Enoch is describing is legitimate, we have over 30 million angels that are walking around on earth. And so I'm going to be investigating this whole androgynous thing, the idea of angels walking on earth and all of that next week. So that's exciting. But getting to this thing, you're right, David. This looks dead up like E.T. It also resembles Lamb, like Aleister Crowley saw when he was, you know, on one of his, you know, satanic trips through time or whatever he was doing. He saw Lamb as well. And as I was saying before, the whole frog thing can't be kind of thrown out of my head. You know, that Revelation frog thing can't be thrown out of my head. It's just, it's all like got the fingerprints, the 3 little fingerprints all over it almost. So.
And the way, and in this book about the non-human remains, Lost Petit and the non-human remains, it talked about how the characteristics of their anatomy were only found in reptiles and birds. That the way their body joined together, their hips and everything, that they were definitely not human. And this is another one of these entities that was found in this area of Peru in 2017 called Josephina. And there's about 7 or 8 of these altogether now that have been found and pulled out and studied. And Josephina, just like Albert, and you can see there that the picture, Josephina had eggs in her. So Josephina
looks like she's got a bra on or something too. What is that?
Well, there was a disc found, and there was a disc found in places and on their hips, and just what this disc was all about, they really don't know. And their bodies were covered in diatomaceous earth and cadmium oxide, which oddly enough is used in the working of nuclear power. So what that's doing there, you know, file that under, let's figure it out. And you see here, these are little bitty guys. You know, they're not large, they're very small, but there is no debate that these are actual bodies of something. And we see here Josephina, and we have, there was another one that has received a lot of publicity.
I'm trying to go to the next one here, David. I'm sorry,
okay, no problem.
My mouse is wanting to
no problem.
Play games with me here today.
And this is Maria. And there's another one. Well, there's 7 or 8 of these altogether. And Maria has been studied extensively. And these are, you see here, the elongated skull. And you see all over in these 3 fingers here that are characteristic on Maria and Albert and Josephina. And of course, that elongated skull, this is something we see Tutankhamun with the elongated skull. This is a thing that is found all over these civilizations. And there's a real mystery and a lot of study about the elongated skulls, but many believe that they were wanting to imitate these gods that came and given the knowledge. And some of these come from their skulls being wrapped, and people literally wrap the skulls of their babies to make them elongated. But some of these Peruvian elongated skulls they're shown that, boy, these are not something that was done through manipulation. They were born that way. And it is definitely very, very mysterious, but for us that know the Word of God, it's not. Now, here's another one of the Nazca lines in this very area, and look at that. Who does that look like? Well, that looks like Albert and Josephina and Maria, doesn't it? So here we have this ancient Nazca line that is so old, who knows who put it there, and why was that put there? Because I believe that creatures like Albert and Josephina and Maria, they have been living in these underground caves ever since, as far back as you want to go, the sons of God and the daughters of men came in, that these have been there for a long, long time. They're there right now. And there's some things coming out now in Peru that they're not little bitty guys like Albert and Josephina, but they're big and they're bad, and literally they're going to peel your face off.
You remember you probably remember this. We talked about this one time before, but I remember researching it. The legend of the storks. You know how we all have the stork legend where the storks carry the baby and then they drop the baby into the people's homes. This is like the way people used to describe how babies came out. There's like a nursery rhyme about it or a cartoon or something. I don't know how the word got out, but there's a group of this island they found near Transylvania, where there were this war described between the little people and the storks. These little people were so small that the storks were swooping down and grabbing them and taking them off and flying them through the air. And the legend has it that people were looking at the sky, seeing them carry these little people across the sky, and they thought they were carrying babies to people. So interesting.
Yeah, and you have the thing in the even here in North America, the legend of the Thunderbird. There was a case that was written about a lot right over in Illinois, where there was a young girl that was almost carried away by the Thunderbird right in front of her parents. Now we're going to play a little video for you, and I tell you what, Albert and Josephina, the best estimates is that these little fellers lived 500 AD to 1000 AD. They're very, very old, very, very old, and DNA testing is certainly not exact science, but they're old. They're old, no doubt about it, and they are representative things that are very, very old. But we're going to show you Albert and Josephina get around, and here not long ago, just a few months ago, Albert and Josephina made a show in front of the Mexican Congress. So let's just listen to a little bit of this, and it just keeps getting more and more interesting.
Scientists in Mexico pulling back the curtain on what they believe are aliens and put two of those corpses on display. Take a look. These small mummified specimens were unveiled at Mexico's first ever UFO hearing yesterday. Yeah, it looks like ET. You're right. The alleged alien corpses were found in Peru. They're believed to be 700 to 1800 years old. They only had 3 fingers and elongated heads. X-rays of the aliens were also shown, and experts say one of the bodies has eggs inside of it. Maybe we're going to have alien babies.
A lot going on in Peru.
Yeah.
Right.
여태까지는
Is this
지네는
real? Do people
삐까뻔쩍
believe it? I don't.
We want DNA samples.
And then we're eventually going to find out that aliens look nothing like what we think they look. They look nothing like it. That looks like a stone carving. It really does. What is that? I don't know.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great AB.
All right. Well, we don't need the ABC promotion there, but it does look, it looks crazy, man. It's like it's one of those things that is hard to because you could think of it so many different ways. You could think of it like the military, whoever they are the they that we talked about that one week. The they made this to make it look like this is a real reality that we're getting ready to face, and they're trying to fake an alien invasion, or these could literally be real beings that, if these are real beings, these are real people, real things that have been in the earth for a while. Which, if you were describing these beings biblically, where would you say these little people came from? Do you think this is like one of the man creations before Adam and Eve, like in the 6-day man type thing, or what do you think about that, man?
Well, I believe that these are the products of when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and we know from the book of Jasher that there was also the manipulation of the animal genome as well as the human genome. And we have not, and the Nephilim, the fallen ones, we usually think of the big ones, but we've done broadcast on the little Nephilim, the fairies, the trolls, and all of these things. And in the Bible, it speaks of the Gammadim, there being entire, and this literally is translated in the Bishop's Bible as pygmy. So there's tremendous, and as much or more of the traditions about the little Nephilim as the big. So this is just little Nephilim. It's what we have here, just little hybrid creatures. We could call them hybrid human. And the way the argument's always framed is, well, is this human or is it ET? And it's not A, it's not B, it's none of the above. What we're looking at here is a hybrid. We're looking at a human hybrid with between humans and fallen angels. And this got to be, this show, Albert and Josephina showed up before the Congress of Mexico, and a lot of people are believing, because we're going to show you the actual DNA results of Albert, Josephina, and Maria. And it's interesting when something like this rears its head, who are the spin doctors that are called in to debunk it and to kind of do a little ha-ha? Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Mr. Globehead himself. Oh, yeah. We'll call Neil deGrasse in here. And also, we're not playing it for you, but NASA did a video. NASA did their little debunker video on this, and they put that out. So let's just listen to what Neil deGrasse Tyson has to say here about Albert and Josephine.
So a Mexican journalist displayed bodies of two supposed non-human beings in Mexico, in front of the Congress in Mexico. Okay, each with 3-fingered hands and elongated heads. Now, before we all mock the video, right? Because it's gotten a lot of mocking. It looks a lot like ET. But as I said, NASA just announced for the first time a director of research on UFOs. So they are taking this overall topic more seriously. What's your take on this?
Well, first of all, I like what they did in Mexico. They had what they claimed are alien bodies. They brought it out in front of their Congress. That's better than leaving them in a locked box and saying you and no one else can get to see them. That's a start. But in science, a new truth, an objective truth, is only established when multiple labs can analyze whatever your claim is. When we brought rocks back from the moon, we distributed them to all the labs of the world. So everybody participated in that discovery. So here, bring out samples to others and let other people, skeptical people, test this. Go ahead and verify it or falsify it, and then we move on.
What was your reaction when you saw the images?
I was surprised because if they're from another planet, why do they look so human? They have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, shoulders, hips, femur, a rib. Why? Most life on Earth shares DNA in common with us, looks nothing like us. So how could it somebody? So that was my first thought. Second, any corpses or mummified remains, there is no bone in your nose. It's an open hole into your skull. These aliens have intact noses, okay? If indeed that is their nose, okay? Sure. That's odd after 2,000 years to still have a nose with two cavities in it. So that's odd, but they should share it. That's how we determine what is true and what is not.
All right, Neil, thanks so much. Great to
Interesting.
Yeah, let's give Neil some samples to test. He's got the moon rocks, and then he'd have the moon rocks, and he'd have the samples of Josephina and outward also. Now, let's confuse the issue with a few facts. And notice he was very, very careful not to say that there had not been DNA tests done. There's been a bunch of them. And we're going to show you the results of those DNA testing. But, well, it's not been given to everybody. You know, Neil doesn't have it. NASA doesn't have it. So, it's spin. It's spin. That's all it is. But let's confuse the issue with a few facts here. In this book, Lost Fatigue and the Non-Human Remains of Nazca, Mr. Yuri Jamin, who was right there firsthand through all of this drama. Fascinating read. It really is very compelling. And we'll read just a little bit, confuse the issue with a few facts. And quoting here a broadcast on June 20th that was quite a bomb. It said that in Peru, it said all of the analysis carried out show us that this is not human DNA. And a few examples, this is one that was done by William Brown, who works with the world-renowned physicist Nassim Haramein. He said, after seeing the results of the DNA analysis, I would say that the beings from whom the samples were taken and whose DNA was analyzed do not belong to any known terrestrial category. They do not respond to any species on Earth. There is no sign that this is a fake, and based on the initial DNA results, Maria is a genuine relic of unknown origin. The results of DNA analysis do not support the idea that these were altered human remains at all, and there is no evidence to suggest this is a hoax. The people who make this claim were not basing it on data, but on their personal opinion and viewpoint. Now, from my personal point of view, which I believe is precisely informed by objective scientific data, I see strong indications suggesting that these were genuine, anomalous remains of unknown origin. And there's more concerning, this is on page 144 and 45 of this book, Maria's DNA and Watiwa in particular, which was another one of these little creatures, at this point in the analysis came as a bit of a surprise. In Sri Lanka, the Gentech laboratory had communicated to us a few days before the event its first conclusions. And Gentech is a very renowned, reputable laboratory, top of the line. It says, this is a report from Gentech. In our samples, we detected 95% DNA belonging to primates and 5% unknown DNA. We concluded that Maria's mummy is not human. In fact, it is this 5% of unknown or mutated DNA that allows us to confirm this without the slightest doubt. We are facing a kind of hybrid. Multiple DNA tests have indeed proven that this is a human hybrid. And for those of us that know the Word of God, we know that this is a hybrid that came about as a result of the sons of God mating with the daughters of men. And that these things, we talked a lot too about how that in the earth, going into the earth, many scriptures that in the heart of the earth that these things have remained. I'm going to give you some more scriptures in a little bit about what the Bible says prophetically about these little creatures and also some big ones coming out. And there's more. I want to give you some more facts to just give you an idea of the multiple DNA tests that have been run on these little fellows that if you would have listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson, or if you would have listened to the NASA video, you would have think, well, there just hadn't been no tests done. But they were careful to spin it without saying there hadn't been tests done, if you really listen to what these people are saying. But here's another one. This is recorded on page 168 of this book. It says the first results of her analysis were surprising. First of all, concerning Maria, the DNA taken from a vertebral bone revealed that 33.67% of the sample belonged to Homo sapiens. A bacterial contamination amounted to 17.5%. And finally, more than 46% of the DNA was of unknown unknown origin. Going on, it says DNA and carbon-14 analysis of various biological materials, including the famous three-fingered hands, was such an intriguing aspect. The detailed analysis of the paleo DNA results were surprising. This hand, now we're talking about the little three-fingered digit hands on all these entities, had only 1% of DNA in common with Homo sapiens. And that's believable. Them little three-fingered hands, they don't look human, don't they? And indeed, they are not. Only 1% human DNA in those little three fingers hands. So when far from the fact that there has been no DNA tests, there have been a lot of them. And I'll read you one more.